Just ate the best kebab from this place in Ballina. What's it called? I think it's just called Kebab Zone. Honestly, amazing. The blend of flavors, just, oh. Last time I came down here, I ate 2. Got 1, went back. The walk of shame that I'm not ashamed of, because I'll double up on a kebab if it's good. Got another kebab. But then I felt the greasy come down, which you'll know well if you eat kebabs. The lethargy, the heaviness, and so I was like, okay, I overdid it. And I felt a bit mucusy as well. And the mucusy feeling is always a sign that you've gone too hard. So yeah, this time I came down and I just had 1 kebab. Let myself digest, just sitting on a bench, just watching people coming in and out of the shopping mall, just sitting next to the car park, like really fucking absolutely pristine scenes. Had an awesome little exchange with the guy who like sold and gave me the kebab. I think he was probably Turkish or something like that. Just a really solid dude. Really present, really present with the smile. Just before that, I went to register this new car at Service New South Wales, which is like the department where you have to do that stuff. Walk in, go to get a ticket so that I can wait to be served. The guy who sort of manages that was like, okay, well, we need an ID to confirm your middle name. And I was like, oh fuck, I don't think I have my middle name on any of my stuff other than my driver's license. And he's like, oh, well, we need something like a bill, whatever. Couldn't find anything. Passport was the only thing. He didn't want a photo of the passport. He wanted an actual passport. I hadn't taken it with me because I didn't think that the middle name issue would be such a problem. Anyway, none of my bank, and anyway, I digress. That dude was a fucking legend too. He was like, oh no, wait, hang on. If you use the CommBank app, then you can find your middle name. And like, he was just so helpful and so chill. And at the end, he was like, man, no worries. I wish I could have helped you. I was like, you did help me, man. You're being a legend. And he was like, oh, I still failed. And I was like, who is this dude? A fucking samurai monk who works at Service New South Wales, who has standards like fucking that for himself? That's the nicest, most helpful government worker I've ever encountered in my life. Dude was a fucking G. Anyway, so the point is, I've had some really beautiful experiences in very mundane places. I didn't get to do my registration thing, drove here, couldn't do it. So then I went and got the kebab. Evidently what I really needed was the kebab. So the Cosmos was just taking me through the whole process of maybe doing my registration papers to get me to go to the kebab shop. And here I am making this video with you, for you. So isn't it beautiful? So we're always looking for these threads of meaning to weave through our lives. We're always thinking, oh, that wonderful thing happened, which led to that and led to that. And it's like, but then we lose faith in that and we start to look for these like really golden threads. Like, I'm going to manifest this and oh, that's a sign. And look at the numbers at 555. Well, like, dude, just being alive is a miracle. You don't need to have a string of hectic experiences. Being able to eat a kebab and live in peace and sit on a park bench, not even a park bench, a pavement bench, is a fucking miracle, man. Like, what do you guys want? What do you want from life? What do you want? Jesus. So anyway, this connects with Buddhism somehow. Here's what it is, right? So in Buddhism, there's this idea of emptiness, and a lot of people misunderstand this emptiness idea, I think, because there seems to be this maybe conditioned Western interpretation that emptiness means devoid of substance. The Buddhist interpretation of emptiness, from what I understand, is to be devoid of, well, it is to be devoid of substance, but it's to be devoid of independent, isolated substance, okay? So the Buddha nature, the clarity of awareness permeated with aliveness, let's say, is everywhere and through everything, but no one particular thing is preferential. And so like things are empty, like my identity, my sense of self is not something that we can isolate and say that is real, that is of substance more than anything else is of substance. So emptiness is kind of like emptiness of separate form. It's not emptiness of all life or soul, or you know what I mean? It's emptiness of concept. Emptiness of concept. When you strip away all concepts and any sense of any sense of isolated substantial existence over here and void all around it, when you strip that idea away, what you're left with is just the soup of the all, you know, the soup of the all. And that's fucking cool. And the more you connect with that, the more your kebab tastes incredible. And the smells of the exhausts can even not be too bad. It'll still be fucking shit, it'll still be gross, but it's not too bad. So another angle on this, the way my brain works, let's just lane hop. This emptiness idea was very useful for me when I went through a breakup, which revealed a high degree of... Look, breakups can be challenging anyway, right? Especially if you're the one getting broken up with. But some breakups, it's like you recognize how much you've projected onto your partner. You've projected so much of your own goodness onto your partner, who becomes your ex-partner. And you've also projected so much of your own negativity or shame and blame onto them. And it can be both. And any kind of projection in this sense, whether it's the golden shadow or it's the dark shadow, can cause big issues. And you often realize that projection when things rapidly change without expecting it. And so all of your sense of self, which you know through the things you project and the things which seem stable about your life, your sense of self is revealed to be a fucking hologram. You know, everything you thought was so solid, everything you thought would last is just so ephemeral and so holographic. It's not substantial, it's conceptual and projected. So this was the experience that I had. It was like a ripping away of the fabric of my reality. And of course, the actual fabric of reality is just as it is, but it was a ripping away of my psycho-emotional map that I knew how to navigate. And so I was left with this sense of, who am I now? I'd spent, you know, the better part of 8 or 9 months stepping into an internal readiness or preparation for what it would be like to be a dad, to be the kind of person who would really dial in and show up and not turn from difficulty. But in the process, I got quite serious. I got too serious almost. And I lost sight of who I already was, who was already so capable, and already capable in a way which was playful, capable in a way where I had trust in my body. I gave up a lot of these things. In not deeply knowing myself, or in forgetting myself, because I did know it, but not with her. With her, I forgot. In that, I lost a lot of myself and I gained a lot of strange beliefs back. And so the ripping away, it's like having invested so deeply in something, but having given up a lot of yourself to invest in that, and having changed a lot, thinking that you wanted to change, choosing to change, when that falls through, it can be rough. What's another way to describe it? So it's like, you're in a tree, you're all happy, you love your tree, you're comfortable in your tree, the tree's blooming and blossoming. And then for some reason, someone says, no, come and get in my tree. Come and get in my tree. I don't know about your tree. I don't know if I want to meet you on that branch. Come get in my tree. And you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I will. Like, maybe I'll join you in your tree. Or maybe I'll plant a new one. And yeah, I can be okay with that. Maybe I will plant a new one. And then once you join them in the tree or you plant the new one, they're like, I don't really know. And then you've just jumped out of your fucking tree. You just left your sense of stability and your sense of self. So then Buddhism becomes very appealing because you're like, oh, well, how can I solve this complete fracture of my psyche? Well, what I can do is I can realize that there was never any substance in there to begin with. It was empty all along. These ideas of who I am, these ideas of who other people are, these assumptions that aren't tested, they're all empty. When you go very deep into that, it can be very destabilizing for someone who doesn't want to see that. But for someone who feels that the ship is sinking, that layer of truth can be very liberating because it enables you to let go and to die. You essentially die to yourself. You die to the concept of yourself. You die to everything you think that you have to believe. You die to your default reactions and drop the story, and you're left with just a bunch of bodily sensation. You're left with the sensation of almost a chemical addiction to your partner, because that chemical addiction is something that relationships can create. You know, you learn to some degree, to regulate one another and to support each other through difficult things. You decide to exchange energy as a couple. You are individuals, but you also exchange a lot of energy as a couple, and you build together. So when you cut off part of that loop, there's going to be an issue, and when it cuts quickly, and when there isn't an integrative process within that, when it happens very quickly, it's like, yeah, it's very, very, very difficult for your body's sense of normality and the rhythms that it gets used to and adapts to, and the associations that person has with the neurochemistry that they trigger within you, that all gets pulled apart and it's gone, and then you're left with, it's like very destabilizing. So the best thing to do sometimes is to match that sense of destabilization with a complete letting go. And for me, what that looked like was a lot of lying on the floor, just lying on the floor, breathing into the ground, completely fucking surrendering to my own weight, and recognizing that I could drop everything that I thought I knew about anything at all, and completely surrender to being completely powerless in that respect, and to feel that to feel my own death passing through, but also to feel that the flow continues as you let go. So you don't let go and then it all stops. You don't let go of the concepts and suddenly there is no self. There's no idea of self. There's no word about self. You can't point to what your self is, but there's still something. There's still something that we can't put words around. When you let it all go, there is still life. There's life and there's consciousness and there's just a releasing and an I don't fucking know, which is like dying and being reborn for all intents and purposes, other than the physical aspect. And what was interesting is I recognized myself just letting go of all judgment towards whatever came up, just lying on the floor. And it was profound in some ways. There was a profound release of suffering and a release of turmoil. The friction was gone. The internal friction was gone, which is, the dissolution of friction comes from the dissolution of insistence on knowing what things are. And so that's kind of life. That's love. That's how love operates. That's how love moves. It's a dissolution of friction. It's not necessarily an expansion of actual space, but it's an expansion of possibility within space and time. And it's an expansion of possibility within space and time, which also harmonizes with the biological state, whatever that state is. So you can be in pain, you can be in bliss, whatever it is, you're harmonizing with the isness of the moment, including the biology. And the more you harmonize with the biology, the more you recognize that your body is actually, its resting state is bliss. This might sound far out, like you got a sore back, you got a headache, you got neck tension. I get that, I get it. But the way you can experience yourself within and through that is still bliss. It's hard to grasp because we're not used to having these experiences in a body which we're completely okay with. We're not used to being okay with extreme emotional discomfort or even physical pain. But there is a place, a dying and rebirthing, a profound release where it is okay and you are okay and you're relating to yourself with such tender spaciousness at the same time as that pain is in existence, that things just feel like bliss. I basically remember there were days when I was lying in bed and I was just like ready to die. I was just like, everything that I think I am, I have to let it go. Nothing makes sense to me right now. I'm ready to die. And I wasn't like gonna do anything about that other than just lie there. But it enabled me to get through some really difficult stuff. Now, it's not necessary, strictly speaking, to have this type of experience. Like the level of extremity and the level of emotional pain and all of that is, I think, kind of proportionate to your level of clinging and grasping and just not being able to process things in the present. So like this level of pain or difficulty comes from high levels of stress plus really unexpected turns of events and just a rattling, you know. That's what really made me so emotional and made me feel so kind of fucked or volatile within myself. Ordinarily, if you were managing your experience really well, maybe not ordinarily, maybe just with more remembering and more practice, you would maintain your seat within your life flow. You ironically you remain anchored because you're embracing flux. When you grip and you cling and you can't embrace flux, the anchor gets ripped and you have no anchor, but you're clinging. So clinging without an anchor can feel like being torn apart. But releasing into spontaneity, ironically, anchors you into harmony with whatever this is, in my experience. So if you don't resist life's change, then you never sort of have to go through such a hectic recalibration process, I don't think. If you really were dying to yourself in each moment and you really truly were lucid and present and therefore being reborn again and again, without your sense of identity being stuck, then it would be like everything would be so fresh and there'd be so much appreciation and so much presence that you would never be deprived of anything faster than the rate that you are also receiving. It's when our filters get stuck and we think we can only receive in a certain way that we convince ourselves that we're being deprived, humiliated, rejected, betrayed, whatever. When you're open to this moment being as it is and you can actually accept that, which means your neural filters are open and you're truly regulated because you're in presence. Regulation doesn't mean you're not amped up or sleepy. Regulation means you're in presence with what is and you're not creating more on top of it through reactive conditioning. So if you're really in presence, then the moment is always fresh. Like every new breath is kind of just as satisfying as the last. Every new moment is just as satisfying as the last. And what stops that from being the case is the projection. So if you can manage to understand your projections, then you have a chance at not having to be torn apart to realize that you're not your projections. You can just keep realizing that your projections are projections, and you never really need to get torn apart because you're always swimming in the flow of life. But as soon as you grip and you anchor your sense of self into an idea of certainty and stability and unchangingness, then you're starting to then insist, and to the degree that you create insistence, life is going to offer the inverse to reflect that what you think is not what is. What is not what I think. What I think is part of what is, but what is infinitely more than the thought. So yeah, some reflections, some ranty post-kebab reflections. I love doing these YouTube videos. One of the things about them though is that they're going to be like this. This is how I like to do it. It's an expressive outlet for me. I feel like I'm just having a chat. It's not an orderly, do this, do that, do the other. It's just me sharing my perspectives and experiences in a way which might interest someone, and that's all it needs to be. More of that might feel good in a world where there's a lot of, listen to me, I'm the guru, I teach stuff, but I'm not a guru. I teach stuff because I've done stuff that can potentially help people and learn stuff. But it doesn't mean that I'm the guru, because your experience is unique. It's unique in the fact that you're the one driving, you're the one in it, it's got nothing to do with me. So I'm just offering reflections of a certain type, and then your mind will interact with this stuff in a particular way, and it will plug in and block out certain things depending on what you're ready for. And that's good. That's how it should work. You can learn from anyone and anything that you're open to fully witnessing. And you will naturally have a response to that or a reaction to that, and you can learn from that reaction too. There's lessons everywhere. And life is rich. Life is always rich. As soon as you become a little less preferential about what you're served up, as soon as you choose to step forth in the way you would like to into life and into the moment and meet the next breath, as soon as you choose that for yourself and let go of life needing to be a particular way, you'll realize that you cannot be deprived of anything worth having. That's quite something. I can't remember who said it. The great way is easy for he who has no preference. It's good. It's really good. We all have preferences. Sometimes they're covert preferences. They're things we don't know we like. They're conditions we don't know we're within. Default patterns we don't know we have. So you can still be without preference. It's just that you'll have to let go and die to the conditioning that thinks that you must have a particular fucking preference. Like, I went through a little thought experiment with myself at one point. I was like, what if this relationship, the one that's it's over now, what if it is good enough that we end up having kids, and then one day we split up, be fucking, got a broken family, got a child, and then your parents aren't together. I was like, oh my god, how terrible would that be? And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe, but maybe not. Who knows? Like, if you let fear like that get in the way of taking the next step, then you won't take the step. If you take a step and that happens, and you're convinced that it's going to be terrible, well, then you'll probably live that out. If you recognize that the fundamental value of any relationship is the quality of attention and the listening and the receiving and the heart opening. Nothing can take that away. That's yours. That's yours. That's always yours. That's got nothing to do with anyone or anything or any circumstance. You can always be that person and show up as that person if you choose to. There is nothing that can possibly strip you of that. You can always respond from that place if you choose to, and if you're willing to endure and feel anything in order to do that. So whatever happens, unfortunately, my friend, you always have the choice to surrender. And that's the bit that people struggle with. That's the bit that I struggled with. And so I learnt lessons. And eventually we accept the lesson and we're like, okay, I see. And that's that. Onwards. Into the new we go, again and again and again.